Okay, I'm loving the conversations. Good morning, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to the Humanist Society of Greater Phoenix. My name is Alex Zygmunt. I'm the president of the organization. Just want to say hello and welcome to you all today. I have a few announcements to go through, then we'll introduce our speaker. But before we begin all that, has everybody enjoyed breakfast? Yes? All right. Thank you so much to our breakfast crew. I saw them here early this morning. I think 6:25 is whenever I saw Pete walk through the door. So they get started really early. By the way, if you're interested in helping on the breakfast crew, it's a great way to get to know everybody, have a good time, help us get set up. And one thing that also helps is if once we're done with everything, we get cleaned up and ready to go. But as we begin our announcements today, I see a lot of new faces in the crowd. If you're here for the first time, please raise your hand. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We have a number of events that we do around the community center. Some of you may have seen before the change over to the presentation that we do a number of programs here at the community center, things like our VAST meeting, volunteer, mutual aid, and solidarity team. These are the people who come together, come up with ideas about how we can give back to the community that we're in and that we serve and that we're around, so we can be good humans for the people around us. One of the things that I run is Philosophy Under the Influence. It's night whenever we don't have a Sunday speaker meeting. We come in here and just sit down and chat about philosophy. It's a short little video that we watch. Then we talk about that topic for the evening. If you would like to imbibe in adult beverages, you may do so, not required. By the way, HSGP does not bring along sell, but people do bring so that it can be shared. No adult beverages. We don't sell that here. So another number of other events that we do are things like our blood drives. We got a blood drive coming up here pretty soon. When is that, Howard? First week in April. So go ahead and get stocked up now so you can donate it later. So I just wanted to briefly mention that we do have a board meeting today. We have a number of decisions that we need to be that need to be made for and by the community center. If you would like to join us in that, board members, please raise your hands. We have most of our board here right now. The rest will probably be along later. We'll have some decisions to be made. Please do stick around if you should choose to do so. It starts at noon. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is starting up a Humanist cafe. Okay? This will be a weekly event for the foreseeable future. The idea being from noon to about 3, we'll be occupying this community center, just open house, maybe have some snacks, some coffee, that sort of thing. Just a great way to hang out, get to know each other, and then, like for the evenings that we have Philosophy Under the Influence, that starts at 4, so we'll just set up and continue the day, have a good time. So we're going to try to do that on Sundays from noon to 3. That's the idea. But the great thing about it is it's a great volunteer opportunity. If you're willing to host that, please let us know. Multiple hosts are better. That way we have some continuity, some flow, that sort of thing. I wanted to bring up Anne-Marie. She has a little thank you for everybody.
I just wanted to say that last week's Darwin Day dinner was very successful. We raised almost $1,000 with that, but I think more importantly, everyone had a really good time. We reinstated fish as part of the get in touch with your inner fish after primordial soup and other plant matters. And I just wanted to make a very special thank you to Mike Shelton, who should raise his hand, who was the grill master and just did a fabulous job of the fish. And we're really, and to all the volunteers that helped set up and clean and showed up and ate. That was good. So the last bite of fish went into the last guest. So it's perfect. So Anyway, thank you all very much for participating in that.
And my very special thanks to Anne-Marie for setting it all up and getting it going. Thank you. As you see that we have, like I said, a number of events that we do here, too many to list at any given time, but there's so many volunteers, so many people that help out. Kathy helps clean up and make sure that she kind of cracks the whip, make sure that everything looks great whenever we're done. So we're always thankful to Kathy. She's amazing. But again, if there's an event that you would like to see, something that you would like to see represented here at the community center, please come to talk to one of our board members. The biggest thing that we're looking for right now, though, is a program director. Our program director for last year had to step away for personal reasons, so we're looking for someone who can spend the time that Aaron is kind of taken over briefly. We need a program director to get our fantastic speakers like we're going to experience this morning. But we need somebody to step into that role. So if it's something you're interested in, there's something, especially topics that you want to see represented in humanism, come talk to myself, come talk to Aaron, any of the board members, and we'll get you going from there. So, yes. There is a program team that we can join. There are committees. You don't have to do the work all by yourself. In fact, if you would like to co-chair with somebody, you can share the responsibilities across two people. That's part of our bylaws, is we're allowed to have 2 co-chairs per office. So you don't have to do it all on your own. Bring your ideas. We'd love to hear from you. Speaking of great ideas, I'd like to introduce Bibi Calvo, one of our board members, and she's going to give us our Humanist Minute. This is a tradition where we talk about humanism for a minute.
Okay.
Or three.
Okay, yes, I am Bibi Calvo, and the reason why I'm here today is to talk to you about our Humanist Kids Club. So, as humanists, we believe that people matter, and that reason and compassion guide us. So, we believe that we need to take care of one another, and especially our next generation. So I'm sure that many Gen Xers would agree with me that the time after school is really an important time for kids. They're curious and they're brave. Starting to get nervous here. But, you know, showing up and letting those kids see and witness ethical and thoughtful adult can really change the direction of their life. So showing up really doesn't mean that you have all the stuff or have all the answers. Just, you know, getting involved, listening, maybe helping with some homework. You know, if our goal as humanists is to see a more humane future, this is how we build it. So I really encourage you to attend the Humanist Kids Club. And hopefully we can turn those humanist values into humanist actions. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Bibi. Okay, before I hand it over to to introduce our speaker, if you have a mobile device, if you could please silence that for us. At the end of the presentation, this microphone, I will be coming around the room. Please ask a question. Don't give a sermon, please. Oh my goodness. But ask a question relevant to the topic, and please share the air. Make sure that other people have an opportunity to ask questions as well. So with that, I'm going to leave it over to Aaron to introduce our speaker.
Good morning. Everybody excited? Feeling good? Everybody have your coffee this morning? I've had 2 already, so I'm zinging right now. Okay. Well, as most of you know, I'm somewhat of a philosophy nerd, so I'm very excited this morning to introduce our speaker, Dr. Dave Yount. So, professor of philosophy at Mesa Community College. Dave holds a PhD and an MA in philosophy from the University of Wisconsin at Madison, and a BA in philosophy and psychology from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. Courses he has taught include Introduction to Philosophy, Contemporary Moral Issues, Medical and Bioethics, Environmental Ethics, and History of Ancient Philosophy and the Philosophy of Sexuality. Dr. Yount has been the MCC Philosophy Club advisor since its founding in 2003. And he's published Plato and Plotinus on Mysticism, Epistemology, and Ethics, 2017, and Plotinus, the Platonist, a comparative account of Plato and Plotinus's metaphysics in 2014. With that, would you please join me in a warm humanist welcome for Dr. Dave Yount.
Hi, everybody. How's it going? Can you hear me through here? Thank you so much. Thanks very much for having me. I'm really honored that I was even asked to be here, so I'm really excited. So here we go, I guess. Oh, I wanted to add something that I thought of my bio. One of my colleagues down the hall, I moved at MCC, I moved my office, and I'm down the hall from Dr. Brian Dilley, who was here a couple of weeks ago, and he had so much more of a fun bio, and I thought, wow, mine's so geeky and academic. So I thought I should add that I play guitar and sing on nights and weekends and even afternoons at assisted living and memory care places and bars all around the valley. So that's fun. 3 grandkids, awesome children, so married for 35 years. So all that, I thought, all right, I should probably mention this now that I'm on recording. So like winning the Academy Award, I'm not going to thank anybody else. It's all about me. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. All right, so let me obviously you've been reading that for a while. So I'll go on, but I'm already going to introduce what I'll be doing. So today, I will give you a general biography of Socrates, and some fun things about him too. Recount the charges against him and his defense against those charges. Relate why he thought he should undergo the death penalty even though he thought he was innocent. That's my grabber, like, what? Oh, okay. And then read you his death scene. I'm just literally going to kind of read that out loud for you. A lot of people haven't probably read that or are aware of it. And then argue for his relevance to today's world. So on the left, we have, I bet you can guess, a real bust of what he apparently really looked like. On the right is an AI-generated image of what he may more look like, so to speak, more as a human would have. He lived from 469 to 399 before the Common Era. Our main sources of Socrates' life and philosophy are from Plato, Socrates' student. Plato hung out, I worded this, I'm going to go off script, but Plato was with Socrates from when Plato was 20 to 30, and from when Socrates was 60 to 70. So he knew him for 10 years and hung out with him, as I call it, and listened to him speak with others. Xenophon is Socrates' contemporary. What I meant is he was around the age of Socrates, who was not present for Socrates' trial, and then but has his own version of the trial and other things, other writings that have Socrates as the main feature. And then Aristotle, who was born, I always like to make sure my students know, Aristotle and Socrates weren't on the planet at the same time, I like to say. Aristotle was born 16 years or so after Socrates died, but heard accounts and stories about Socrates. He has very few claims, Aristotle does, about Socrates, just probably, 3 or 4 or 5, I don't know, something like that. Not a lot. He doesn't talk about him that much. So I'm mainly going to be talking about Plato's, Platosaurus, and another one. So his father was Sophroniscus, who was a sculptor. His mother was Phanerete. She was a midwife. What's fun and interesting about that is that Plato has Socrates actually say, obviously metaphorically, that I, Socrates, am a midwife to your ideas. Let's birth an idea, he says to a guy, and we'll see if it's a mere wind egg, which is, I had to look that up. I didn't know what the heck does that mean. It means an egg that has nothing else in it, just like it's the shell with nothing in it. So we'll see if you bear a mere wind egg or something that we can really use. So that's kind of interesting and fun. So he was a sculptor. For some time, he may have sculpted the Graces, which were these these nice things just outside of Athens, or near, by the city limits, as they'd say. He also loved dancing. I didn't throw that in there, apparently, which is kind of fun to say. You wouldn't probably think of that. Married to Xanthippe, of whom Socrates apparently said, "If I can put up with her, I can put up with anything." I'm just going to look dead on the camera and go, no comment, and we're just going to move on. Here we go. No, they had 3 sons, Menexenus, Lamprocles, and Sophroniscus. So he fought in 3 battles, one at Potidaea. He saved the life of Alcibiades, who was a general. We fought at Delium, and Amphipolis as well. He went to the Agora, which is the marketplace, where he would, in the translation we get usually, where he would examine people to see if they knew anything. I wanted to give you some sense of, I'm going to say it later, but he claimed, I don't know anything. He would walk around and talk to experts. They would come by him and he'd say, hey, Nicias, you're a general. You just kind of won a war. Instead of asking, are you going to go to Disneyland? He would ask, so you must, do you know what courage is? And he says, well, of course. If I don't know what it is, nobody does. Okay, can you give me an account of what courage is? And Nicias would say something like, I'm just kind of giving you a sense of what he would say. It's when the general tells you to, charge the hill. It's when you go up that hill, and that means you have courage. And Socrates said, thank you so much for the example, but what I want is I want to know the nature of courage. So in our lingo, do you have a definition? A proposal for the one thing that makes courage courageous and be a good thing, so I can figure out if I've ever done anything courageous or if any actions or other people are what qualify as courageous. So then how it proceeds from there is the person will, the guy he's talking to will say, okay, well, here's my definition. Again, I'm just making this general to give you a sense. But don't you believe that A is true? Yes, and he gives like 3 or 4 examples. They go on for half a page to get the guy, that makes it, that stands to reason, sure. Do you believe that B is true, this other claim or principle? Sure, and then lots of examples, and that makes sense. How about C? And yes, it takes a while. All right, so do you see that at a certain point, do you see that if A, B, and C are true, then your definition doesn't work out? Yeah. All right, do you have another one? And this is really key. Socrates, as portrayed in the dialogues, and we don't know that these were, the conversation or the dialogue that is written down by Plato actually really happened. You should know that in most cases. The trial is probably pretty accurate. I'm going to be talking about the trial, of course. But yeah, so he just talked to people, and he always had that. He would say, "But you're a general," and you can read it in an obnoxious way, right? Like he's like, "But you're a general, you should know." You can read it that way, or you can read it that. But certainly you must know what courage is. So do you have another definition? And at that point, the guy, the interlocutor, the big fancy word, the guy he's talking to, will either just say, "Yeah, no, I don't know anything. See you later. See you tomorrow." And up yours, Socrates. Sorry, that ended up being a thing that they didn't like about him. He was like, you're making all this look bad. So those are some of the examples. And one more, I want to go back into even just why he would examine people. It's in his trial. It's in the Apology by Plato. He actually states that he had a really zealous follower, someone who just loved him a lot, and his name was Chaerephon. And Chaerephon went to the Delphic oracle, where the Greeks believed that Apollo would give you an answer to a question you had. You learned it was really expensive too. I mean, it wasn't like everyone just went down there on every day to go, hey, I'll ask something. It's more like, how much money do you have? Okay. But anyway, Chaerephon asked, who is the wisest person in Greece? And the answer was returned, no one is wiser than Socrates. I bet you can't guess how excited Chaerephon was. He was like, yeah. And he runs back up, tells Socrates, like, hey, guess what? Just went to the oracle, God Apollo, basically, said, no one is wiser than you. And Socrates' reaction was, that's weird, because I don't think I know anything. And he just literally was just, I have to think about this. Like, I guess, well, I'm going to start examining people, and no offense, God, but maybe prove that I don't know anything, or maybe that I really do. Like, let's see how this goes. And then we'll take it from there. But so he looked at it like, I'm on a divine mission now, according to him, right? That I need to figure out what's going on. Apparently I'm wise, and I don't think I'm wise, so I don't even know maybe what wisdom even is. So now here's some of the claims that, again, just on his biography, claims that Plato makes about Socrates. Socrates himself, claimed that he was ugly. He described himself as snub-nosed. I'll let you be the judge from the picture you saw. He would stand in contemplation for hours, sometimes overnight, and his friends would just basically leave him alone. Let him do that. When other soldiers complained about being cold in those military campaigns he was on, he donated his cloak and shoes. He claimed that he did not, and there was snow there, just so I say it quickly so you're not thinking like, well, it's moderate temperate climate. No, there was some snow there, and he was like, I don't care. Here, take it. He claimed that he did not know anything of men of high reputation for being wise. He said, although I do not suppose that either of us knows anything really beautiful and good, I am better off than he is, for he knows nothing and thinks that he knows. I neither know nor think that I know. I say this on the first day of my one-on-one classes. I go, hi, everyone, I don't know anything. No, please laugh. Wait till we get to the knowledge and certainty section of the course, and then you can try to prove to me that I do know something. But good luck, hasn't worked yet. And I'm only, okay, all right. Whoops, I don't know what happened there. Okay, here we go. Alcibiades, this is a fun way to say it for today's world, a hot young general, was smitten with Socrates and claimed to have attempted to get Socrates drunk so Socrates could have his way with Alcibiades, but to no avail, and it made him really mad. This is in that story occurs in the symposium if you want to look it up. It was a drunk drinking party, like your philosophy under the influence. Anyway, he didn't drink wine often, but when he did, he could drink everyone under the table. It is said. So it wasn't like he wanted to drink, but he told people, and I really should say, it's a Delphic oracle saying, know thyself. And I think it was over the oracle, like an archway or something on your way in there, know thyself. But you might say he really liked that saying, so he would repeat that. Plato states that in his last days, Socrates was writing some fables, analogous to Aesop fables, something like that, but we no longer possess them, and otherwise he wrote nothing. Some of my students come to me, and I'm not making fun of them, but they'll say, did Socrates even really exist, or is he just a character in Plato's time? No, he really did. I have to reassure them. So here are some interesting / fun things that historian Diogenes Laertius tells us about Socrates, the little star at the bottom. The more info about him is that Diogenes lived about, 500 years after Socrates, a long time after. So it wasn't like he was best friends and like, oh, you want some, what is it called? Not entertainment tonight, but whatever, gossip on it, hot goss on Socrates. It was more like he just heard some stuff. But I'll read off these things nonetheless because they are pretty interesting. Some of the things I think I have up here are pretty interesting. Unlike most philosophers, he had no need to travel except for when required to go on an expedition, the military thing. Rest of his life, he stayed at home and engaged all the more keenly in argument with anyone who would converse with him, his aim being not to alter his opinion, but to get at the truth. And let's see. All right, he was a man of great independence and dignity of character. Often when he looked at the multitude of wares exposed for sale at market, he would say to himself, how many things I can do without. And he would continually recite the lines, the purple robe and silver shine, more fits an actor's need than mine. I like that one. He used to say that he most enjoyed the food which was least in need of condiment and the drink which made him feel the least hankering for some other drink, and that he was nearest to the gods and that he had the fewest wants. And someone asked him whether he should marry or not and received the reply, whichever you do, you will repent it. Again, no comment. We're just moving along. Just gonna what? He used to express his astonishment that the sculptors of marble statues should take pains to make a block of marble into a fine likeness of a man, and should take no pains about themselves, lest they should turn out to be mere blocks, not men. He had invited some rich men to dinner, and then Xanthippe said she felt ashamed. Never mind, said he, for if they are reasonable, they will put up with it, and if they are good for nothing, we shall not trouble ourselves about them. He would say of the rest of the world that he lived to eat the rest of the world lived to eat while he himself ate to live. I think he's the first person to coin that whole phrase, and my wife is on one side of that, and I'm on the other. I'll let you guess. I don't know, whatever, we can guess. But to one who said, you are condemned by the Athenians to die, so are they by nature, he said. When his wife said, you suffer unjustly, he retorted, why? Would you have me suffer justly? I don't like that option. All right, so now on to the trial. So let's get into this. So there were 501 jurors, all men. Sorry, ladies, back then, right? It was only men only. I didn't put it in here. I could have gotten a little picture. I want to tell you kind of quickly about the procedure. Each side, the prosecution and defense, could talk for as long as water came out of it's called a water clock. Not really a clock, but in a way it's a clock because it keeps time. Picture just a big thing. I don't know exactly how big, so whatever, but a tub like a pitcher that holds water with a little hole at the bottom, and they would basically go, ready, go, and unplug it, and water would start coming out. And so the speaker would be yada yada. This is why Socrates is guilty, and then water's still coming out. You can keep going, Dave. Like, all right, David, that's my ancient philosophy name I made up for myself. But you can keep talking, and it's like, oh, water ended. All right, time's up. Oh, okay. So at a certain point in the speech, I'll tell you when Socrates says, oh, it looks like I still have time. So I picture him looking over to the water thing, kind of draining. Like, all right, I'll say a little bit more. So there's that. I think that's about it. I wanted to mention that. So 3 charges of impiety, unholiness, before I go on. Athens at least, back then, and I think many of the Greek, almost all the Greek city-states back then, believed in a polytheocracy, I like to call it, gods and goddesses. If you were an Athenian, you had to believe in those. If I were an Athenian back then and would have said, yeah, I like a lot of the gods and goddesses, but I'm not really a huge fan of Athena. In fact, I don't even think she existed, or something like that, I'd be in a lot of trouble. However, if I were visiting from somewhere else, like let's say Persia somewhere or whatever, and then just stopped by and said, yeah, I'm not really into those. We have our own kind of gods. I don't know that they would have impaled you or like whatever. Gotten really mad about that. So anyway, these are all under the umbrella of these charges are under impiety. So the first charge is corrupting the youth. What that meant was, as I was saying, he had younger guys with him that he would go examine generals and say, hey, what's courage? He examined or talked to a priest about piety, what holiness is. That priest, at least according to Plato's account, gives about 6 different definitions. The fun part is the last one loops back to, or refers, he shows how the last definition is just like the fourth one that was a circle, like circular reasoning. It's really kind of fun. But that guy, apparently, Euthyphro really was going to charge his father for murder, and they were both standing in line to go to a trial, Socrates for his defense of his own life, and the Euthyphro taking his dad to court for murder. And Socrates had, you might say, well, maybe convinced him that he was confused about what piety is enough to the point and to the extent that Euthyphro dropped the charges. So that's interesting. So anyway, and one other thing that's really important, I know I haven't quite got to I'll get to his defense there later too, but against this, but this charge. But what was also going on is that I don't know. I'm kind of losing my spot. This is bad. Yeah. Anyway, so that's it. Sorry. The Peloponnesian War had just happened, and the Greeks lost it, or at least Athenians lost that war with their allies, and they couldn't believe it because they'd already beaten Persia, and so the punks down the road, as I like to have a fun way of referring to Sparta, had beaten them, and they just couldn't believe it. If we can beat this vast, empire, and then these guys, just this one smaller group, why didn't we win? So they looked around their culture to find a scapegoat to say, well, something's going wrong. Hey, we've got this guy Socrates, and he's talking to all these people, and he's getting to question authority and make them, wonder what's really going on. So we shouldn't have that. So the last 2 charges are very closely related: believing in gods other than the gods of Athens, and creating his own gods. What I want to do is just hold off on that part until we get to the defense, because he himself says, I suppose here's what you mean by those charges, so it'll be easier to go there. So Aristophanes' play, the apology, and I put that in quotation marks because apologia, the Greek word, it actually technically more means defense. It can mean apology. Socrates doesn't really apologize officially. He gets close to it, and I have a line, quote later to kind of emphasize that. So Aristophanes had this really popular play that the men of Athens, as I say that for here during the trial, I'll be referring or thinking about the 501 jurors that are out there that he's talking to. So he says men of Athens and talks to them, he addresses them that way. So the men, those jurors would have probably seen this, or a lot of it would have seen this play. So I just want to tell you a couple key things about this play, because think about it like that you only know somebody through a Saturday Night Live sketch. You're getting it? Like if that's all you've seen, you think this is a characterization. They're making it funny on purpose. This was supposed to be a comedy as well. So the first thing is he's swinging in a basket, passing wind. That's the very first scene. And then when I say I forgot to mention, the main character in this play is Socrates. Like there's this guy named Socrates in the play. And so it's not just hey, I saw a play about a philosopher, Socrates, are you like that guy? It's, hey, that's your name. So I'm thinking this is what you do. So obviously, and he's saying some silly stuff, I forget, but in the basket swinging. And so start off, philosophers do silly things. Next, this is in the play, Socrates runs a think shop. He tries to get young men to come to his school so he can teach them how to make the weaker argument the stronger. In terms of today, taught him fallacies so he could win any argument. Fallacies are bad arguments or poor arguments. And he would take money, of course. So in the play, a young man comes with his dad, and he agrees. They agree. The dad and the son agree. Okay, you can be Socrates' student. It takes some pages in the play, but Socrates ends up convincing the young man that he should go home and smack his father, hit his father, and of course that goes against the mores of Athens. So that's not good. Right, but again, it's just a comedy, so we'll move along. So philosophers do dangerous things, and they're a threat to our society. So that would have been maybe in their minds as well, just as they're standing there watching this Socrates guy try to defend his life. Then the last thing I wanted to tell you is they have a scene where they're trying to put wax on gnats' feet. Why? Because they want to. I'm glad you're laughing, and I mean that. So they want to know how many gnats' feet it is from the middle of the room to the door. So philosophers, again, do silly things, absurd things. They're dangerous. They're taking on all our mores and whatever. So that's what they would have had in mind. Oh, and so he starts his trial by saying, hey, just wanted to let you know, you may have seen me in that, or a character like this in my play, I just wanted to make sure you know I don't take money. I don't make the weaker argument the stronger. I don't think the moon is a rock. That's another philosopher's view. I believe it's a god, like their tradition said. So he was kind of saying, hey, it's not me. So against the corrupting the youth charge, he starts with, if there were a problem with a horse, wouldn't you want a horse expert, somebody who knew something about that, instead of just anybody? And he gets Miletus, this guy he's talking to answer him, and he says, yeah, I guess, sure. So he said, all right, so we need to know who the expert in ethics is. Is there anybody here that knows exactly what virtue is and is not, so we could compare whatever I'm doing to what's virtuous and what isn't virtuous, or the lack thereof? Nobody raises their hand, I bet you can guess. And so then he says, well, all right, I guess I'll just keep trying to go on and go from here and tell you what else I could tell you. I want to tell you that I never intentionally tried to, I'm not trying to spread evil and corrupt the youth or whatever. I also wanted to say, do you think that I'm so silly or ignorant that I don't understand that if I corrupt the youth here, if I teach them how to be evil, they won't be evil back to me? And he wanted to answer. He didn't answer that one. The prosecutor, he was just like, fine, I'll let that go. And so then he just says, so let me just ask this. Is there anybody here that I've corrupted who could come forth and actually, share their account or their story with everybody? And nobody comes forth. And he says, interestingly, here's, Plato and Apollodorus and others. These are the guys who kind of hang out with me, and they're not raising their hand, so find that interesting. Is there anybody who couldn't make it today that you'd like to talk on their behalf to say why or in what way I've corrupted them? And no one comes forward. And so he says, well, I guess I'll go on to the next one. At one point, he also gets the prosecutor to say, only Socrates corrupts all of the youth in Athens and no one else does. So I thought that was like, okay. Yeah, good argument. I mean, no backing that up. He just claimed it. Against the believing in gods other than the Athenian gods and creating the new gods charges. So Socrates then says, so let's go on to this one, these sets of charges. I suppose that what people are talking about is my divine sign. I have claimed that I have a divine sign that tells me when not to do something. It's not, it never encourages him to do anything, he states of it himself. And then, so it's not like a conversation either. He just says, I get this sign of like, oh, don't do it. And I don't know if it's a voice, I think it's a voice, but something like that just would make him say like, don't do this, and then he won't do it. So he says, I guess we're talking about that. And then he asks the most puzzling question, and I'm dead serious, out of any trial I've ever heard of, and I'm including fictional, hilarious, Liar, Legally Blonde, My Cousin Vinny, if you've seen any of those. I mean, those are just meant to be funny, right? Like, so I could see maybe a comedy doing what Socrates actually really did, but I've never heard of this except for in this one case. Socrates and then asks, after going through this and saying, here's what I've been brought to court to defend myself against, wait for it, here's what he says. So Miletus, and I got to say this really quickly too because this is fun. Mele, M-E-L-E, is the base root of Miletus' name. In Greek, it means care. And so about I don't know how many times, 3 to 5 times, Socrates says, so Miletus, if you cared about me, ding, 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 get it? If you cared about me, you would just, you wouldn't have brought me to court. You would just be like pulling me aside privately and telling me I'm corrupting youth and things like that. So that's kind of fun. But he says to Miletus, he said, Miletus, so let me ask you this. Is it possible for anybody to believe in horse-related things like bridles, saddles, and reins and whatever, things like that, and not to believe in horses? Men of Athens, will you make a man? Like, no, okay, because that doesn't sound possible. All right, well, I just said that I have a divine sign and believe in these divine things, and so how can I not believe in divinities? Just wondering, and then so at that point he says, well, I still have more time on the clock there. So, all right, I'll just say I'm not worried about dying. I don't think anybody should. It could be a really great thing if it's a long dream of sleep, also known as how he'd put it. You lose consciousness, nothing else happens. I'd die 1,000 times if that were true. Everything's cool. And then it also could be another thing where I go to Hades and examine, keep doing philosophy in the afterlife. And like, I'd love that too. So it could be good. So, don't worry about it. So he actually said that. And when I first read that, the first time I read it, it sounds like, and I don't care about dying either. Like, Socrates, why are you saying that? If I was buddy, like, hey, what are you doing? Okay. Well, he already knew, going into the trial that the prosecution, were going to go for the death penalty. So he kind of already knew that, in case you're wondering. So, like I said, he said, I'm not afraid of death. That's where that occurs. He says it a couple times. Evidence that Socrates believed he was unjustly accused and eventually unjustly, convicted in his opinion. I, too, would have a wondrous activity there in Hades in the afterlife once I make contact with Palamedes and with Ajax, the son of Telamon, and with other ancient men who have suffered death through an unjust judgment. He said that at his trial. Yeah, I'd love to talk to other people who have been unjustly accused. Okay. Maybe not going well, right? Like Socrates, I don't know. But we do have evidence. I just wanted to point that out. While I have life and strength, I shall never cease from the practice and teaching of philosophy. That's brought up in the context of, he said, I just wanted to let you know, if you told me my punishment was going to be, we'll let you live. You can just kind of go away from here and we'll leave you alone, but you can't do philosophy anymore. He was basically saying, I can't do that. I won't be able to do that. It's impossible for me to keep quiet because that means disobeying to God. That's how much he thought, I'm just trying to follow. I'm on a holy mission in a sense of just trying to figure out, do I know anything at all? And then lastly, the really famous phrase, the unexamined life is not worth living. All right, so the votes for guilt versus acquittal. At that point, they had a vote, and they had to vote for all the charges or none, just is he guilty or not? Not like like in our system, like charge one, yes, no, whatever. It's just the whole thing. 263 to 234 for guilt. Basically, 30 votes would have swayed it the other way, and then 4 abstained. So the penalty phase is after, so he's guilty. Oh, forgot to mention, they used pot shards, black little pot shard for guilty and white for innocent, and that's how they counted it up. So the penalty phase, obviously, we knew they were going for the death penalty. Here's how it goes. He starts off with, what does a good man deserve? Probably something good. And all I've done is care for Athens, go to fight bravely in 3 wars, and I just urge people to care more for their soul and virtue more than their injustice and things like that versus their body, money, property, anything like that. So I guess I deserve something good. I'm really poor since I've been just kind of examining people and doing almost nothing but that. So I guess I propose free meals at the military academy. Not kidding. And people just uproar like, whoa, okay, all right, hold on. Well, I mean, I really love Athens. I know exile. I don't like that idea. Like I said, I'm pretty poor. I guess I could come up with 1 mine. And that wasn't that much money. And then a little rumbling happened. This was Plato and Apollodorus and others of his friends. Plato was kind of wealthy, if you didn't know that. And they said, hey, no, say 30 minae. So they way upped it, increased that. I guess they'll help me. So yeah, 30 minae, I'll propose that. So death versus a 30 minae penalty. And here's the vote, drum roll. And there we go, 340 to 160. Really, really made them mad there, as I put it. Like, that didn't go over well. And what abstention? So his words of the jurors, pretty interesting. He said, oh, I guess it's permitted for me to speak just a little bit before they haul me off to prison. So I guess I'd like to say to those who voted for my guilt, you're very wicked. You've done something absolutely wrong. You're going to pay for this now in your lives and when you're dead. Like, yikes, okay. And to those who have went for, or, voted for my innocence, acquitted me, or voted for that, I would like to urge you, please take care of my 3 sons and yell at them a lot if they do anything wrong. Please make them, good men. And so he said that. And then he had a prediction, and his prediction was, I predict that Athens will always be known as having put to death so good a man as me. And he actually said it that way, like put to death a good man. And by the way, it's still happening. I had a colleague that went over to Athens recently and took all these tours, and what they were mainly focused, the tour guides were mainly focused on, were, according to her, experience, was just talking about the gods, and hey, there's Olympus over there, and things like this, or just that's what this is, and talking about the gods. And my colleague teaches philosophy as well, so she said, yeah, but is there, you're going to say anything about Socrates on this trip, that kind of thing? No, and they just kind of were like, no, like, why are we going to do that? Like, okay, well, all right, he's right, all right, I guess, I don't know. And it's like, we're not really talking about that guy. So now it's kind of flash forward. He's in prison. The setting is the people, the friends of Socrates, and you could say friends, and I don't really like maybe students, but maybe you could call them students, roughly. We're visiting him in off hours, like off visiting hours. We find that out in the dialogues. So we're like, hey, they're in good with the guards, as I like to say, where they were being nice. Everyone liked the guys that were coming by. They weren't like a bunch of bad people, apparently. But anyway, so in that, he starts giving his arguments as to why he should undergo the death penalty, basically. I mean, that's where it goes. He starts with as I'd call it, the anti-revenge argument. It's very simple. Credo, the guy he's talking to, says, hey, they've unjustly accused you, and so you should be able to leave. And he says, oh, okay, so are you saying it's wrong for them to have done what they did to me, that it's unjust? And he says, yeah. And he said, well, let's go through what revenge is. Is revenge exchanging a wrong for a wrong? And he says, yes. Is doing wrong not something you should do? In other words, is it wrong to do wrong? Yes. Okay, so revenge is wrong. Moving on, like, oh. It's just sometimes he could be that fast of just like, there it is, definition, and we're finished. Then he goes on later to make the parent analogy argument. He personifies the laws. He pretends the laws are talking to him, to say, hey, Socrates, what do you think you're doing here, planning to destroy us if you leave, if you escape from prison? And so he says the laws, so the argument goes like this. The laws are like your parents. They nurture you, provide defense, teach you and educate you in gymnastics and music, I think is how it's put. So they do all of that. You're not on equal terms with your parents. You don't get to, it's my house, my rules. You've heard that. I mean, that kind of a thing, right? That's the idea. You're not on equal terms. Here's you, here's the state, or here's you, here are your parents. Same kind of a thing. He even throws in or puts into that argument, if your parents do something unjustly to you, you still don't have a right to do anything against them. Of course, he implied is they're in trouble, they've done evil, they're going to have to pay for that, but you don't want to do evil back. It's the two wrongs don't make a right kind of thing, idea as well. So he throws that in there. And then he also says, the last part is that he says there are 3 things you can do, or you have to obey the laws, but the 2 other options are persuade the people of your area or the government to change their laws or leave. And obviously it's leave before you're charged, so too late for him, right? And his argument. Okay. So that's the parent analogy argument. The next one is the just agreement argument. The just agreement argument goes like this. You are, for this argument, totally different. It's definitely a different argument. You are on equal terms. Here's you and here's the state. You're at the level terms. You have 0 to 18 years, meaning 18 years, but from 0 to 18, to decide, to check out the customs and the ways and the laws of your city-state and to decide whether or not you want to live there. If you do, then hang out. If you do, then you have entered an implied contract that you will do as the laws follow. You have to follow the laws. You can't just just choose which laws you'd like to follow or not, or the laws would be destroyed. So you've got to do that. And you have costs, right? So we undergo whatever you have to do, taxes or whatever. But then the benefits, you get all these benefits. So it's important, and then he mentions 3 terms of a just agreement. You might recognize these really right now, even in our laws. We basically have all of these kinds of ideas, but he mentioned them way back. Maybe he was the first one to at least put it, or Plato was the first one to put it into writing. the agreement can't be made under any duress or any compulsion. So it wasn't like somebody was there saying, hey, Socrates, sign this agreement saying you're an Athenian or we want to put you to death or whatever. That wasn't it. You can't make it in any haste, so we didn't hurry you up. He was 70 at the time, right? So we didn't hurry you through this agreement to have you hurry up and agree. And then lastly, we didn't deceive you about any of the terms. He had seen other death penalty cases and people go to their executions as well. So he couldn't say later, like, oh, I didn't know. At that point, after that, in this dialogue called Credo, he gives other personal arguments, as I call it. I think the top three are ones that you could use in almost any state, except for North Korea. Bring that up if you want in the question time. But other personal arguments, he says, I would feel like a total hypocrite if I were to leave because I said during my trial, I'm not afraid to die. So what's it going to look like if I'm like, I'm out of here? That's one. Two, I would really feel horribly if I went to another city-state and any of my friends or students or wherever, again, friends or people I've been talking to around Plato, whatever, young guy, I would hate it if any of them got any hassle from Athens or they were put under, like, hey, you were corrupting the youth, or, something like that, right? I don't want to put them through any of that. I don't like that. Earlier in the dialogue, Credo had brought up, but Socrates, you have 3 young boys, so who's going to raise those, or won't you think about that? What if you could get out of here and help raise them? And he says, at this point, it's kind of a long delayed response kind of thing, but after all of this, he mentioned, oh, and if I leave, I'm also going to show my kids, when to cut and run, like that I'm cutting and running, and that I didn't really care about justice, and I have to show them that justice is more important than anything else, and being a good person is more important than anything else. So I'm not going to do that. And then he also mentioned, this is a big one. He said, so if I went to a city-state, even though I think I've been unjustly accused and convicted at this point, if I were to hightail it out of here and go to any other city-state, they would have every right to say to me and basically yell at me and ask, hey, no matter how innocent you thought you were, Socrates, now you left. Now you did break the law. Why should we think in our city-state that you're not going to just break the law whenever you feel like it over here? So it was like, I thought that was a great point in my personal opinion, like that's a great one. And then he says, as I said, he personified the laws, kind of talking to him and Adam, and he says, not only will the laws of Athens be mad at me, but the laws of the underworld as well, because he believed in that. So he brings all of those up and kind of ends there. So now here's a painting that obviously was created years and years later. You can see that. And all right, that's not my thing. I don't know what that is. But anyway, I'll go on. So let me get my old peepers off here. I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to read you the death scene. This is where I'm going to do that. And I'll pick it up with the guard talking to Socrates. And this is the guard speaking first. I shall not reproach you as I do the others, Socrates. They are angry with me and curse me when obeying the orders of my superiors. I tell them to drink the poison. During the time you have been here, I have come to know you in other ways as the noblest, the gentlest, and the best man who has ever come here. So now, too, I know that you will not make trouble for me. You know who is responsible, and you will direct your anger against them. You know what message I bring. Fare you well also, and try to endure what you must as easily as possible. The officer was weeping as he turned away and went out. Socrates looked up at him and said, Fare you well also. We shall do as you bid us. And turning to us, he said, How pleasant the man is. From time to the whole time I've been here, I've come in here. He's come in and conversed with me from time to time. A most agreeable man, and how genuinely he now weeps for me. Come, Credo, let us obey him. Let someone bring the poison if it is ready. If not, let the man prepare it. I assume you know it's hemlock mixed with some water. But Socrates, said Credo, I think the sun still sets upon the hills and is not yet set. I know that others drink the poison quite a long time after they have received the order, eating and drinking quite a bit, and some of them enjoy intimacy with their loved ones. Do not hurry, there's still some time. It is natural, Credo, for them to do so, said Socrates, for they think they derive some benefit from doing this, but it's not fitting for me. I do not expect any benefit from drinking the poison a little later, except to become ridiculous in my own eyes for clinging to life and be sparing of it when there is none left. So do as I ask and do not refuse me. Hearing this, Credo nodded to the slave who was standing near him. The slave went out and after a time came back with the man who was ready to administer the poison, carrying it made ready in a cup. When Socrates saw him, he said, Well, my good man, you're an expert in this. What must one do? Just drink it and walk around until your legs feel heavy, and then lie down and it will act of itself. And he offered the cup to Socrates, who took it quite cheerfully, without any tremor or change of feature or color, but looking at the man from under his eyebrows, I assume like that, as he did, he asked, "What do you say about pouring a libation from this drink? It is allowed." And he got the answer, "We only mix as much as we believe will suffice." I wanted to pause there for a second. Remember, he was convicted technically, right? That whole charge switch. Am I here for extortion or murder? Extortion, like, wait, it says murder on the thing. Right, so he was found guilty of believing in no gods whatsoever. And if you didn't know, if he asked, "Could I pour a libation?" which went like this: "This is for Zeus and this is for me." And then they would drink the rest. So like at a party, I don't know, or a holy ceremony or something, they'd say, "This is for, a god, and then I'll drink the rest." So he asked, "Could I do that?" And they said, no, we only make enough to, have it work, if you know what I mean. All right, so, and he says, Socrates said, "I understand, but one is allowed, indeed one must, utter a prayer to the gods that the journey from here to yonder must be fortunate. This is my prayer, and may it be so." That's evidence number 2, and we're going to get one more piece of evidence that he still, he definitely did believe in gods, according, this is his last moments on earth here. And while he was saying this, he was holding the cup and then drained it calmly and easily. Most of us have been able to hold back our tears reasonably well up till then, but when we saw him drinking it and after he drank it, we could hold them back no longer. My own tears came in floods against my will, so I covered my face. I was weeping for myself, not for him, for my misfortune of being deprived of such a comrade. Even before me, Crito was unable to restrain his tears and got up. Apollodorus had not ceased from weeping before, and at this moment his noisy tears and anger made everyone present break down except Socrates. "What is this?" he said, "you strange fellows? It's mainly for this reason that I sent the women away, to avoid such unseemliness. For I am told that one should die in good omened silence. So keep quiet and control yourselves." His words made us ashamed, and we checked our tears. He walked around, and when he said his legs were heavy, he lay on his back as he had been told to do. And the man who had given him the poison touched his body, and after a while tested his feet and legs, pressed hard upon his foot, and asked him if he felt this, and Socrates said no. Then he pressed his calves and made his way up his body, and showed us that it was cold and stiff. He felt it himself and said that when the cold reached his heart, he would be gone. As his belly was getting cold, Socrates uncovered his head. He had covered it, and said, these were his last words: "Crito, we owe a cock to Asclepius, sacrifice a rooster to the god of healing," to translate that really fast for you. "Make this offering to him and do not forget." "It shall be done," said Crito. "Tell us if there's anything else." But there was no answer. Shortly afterwards, Socrates made a movement. The man uncovered him, and his eyes were fixed. Seeing this, Crito closed his mouth and his eyes. Such was the end of our comrade, a man who we would say was of all those we have known the best, and also the wisest and the most upright. So that's how the death went. Let me get these back on. He modeled. So why is this relevant? Why should we care? He modeled a philosophical life that that had integrity. As I put it in my mind, he died for philosophy, just thinking like I'm just doing philosophy and try to figure things out. He urged people to care more about virtue than their bodies, wealth, or reputation. So being a good person versus lots of other things that other people might prize. He asked probing questions and showed that no one really possessed knowledge or wisdom that he could figure out at the time. But he was optimistic about trying to find it. He kept thinking like, we got to find it, and let's keep looking. And his arguments for the death penalty take on a major objection to it: the innocent. It's an innocence objection of like, hey, what about the innocent people? He's basically said, well, if those are the rules, then, if we have it set up that way, for example, in Arizona, this is the way it is. It's going to happen. He advocated for engaged ethical citizenship. And he modeled challenging authority and the status quo by being, in his own words, a gadfly that pestered and stung the Athenian horse. He actually did that made that metaphor in the trial. He said, "I'm like a gadfly around, going around, the tail switching the horse is switching its tail, going, get out of here, and I'm just trying to make you guys better." And that's how he said it, or trying to. And that's it. So, thanks very much again for having me. Hope that was interesting.
Okay, I will bring the microphone around. I see a few hands raised. I will try to get to you in the order that I received them. Again, ask a question.
I look forward to questions that I can answer. See what I said there? Never mind.
Is the cloud still exempt? Is still round?
Yeah.
We
Yep,
can read that?
Yep, you can still read it.
Okay. Do we know what happened to his kids?
I was going to mention it. Thanks for asking. Not that we know of. And I don't want to make it sound like, I think there's one Diogenes saying, again, 500 years later, wouldn't trust it too much, but that they didn't amount to
He
much.
didn't become they didn't become philosophers or anything, as far as we know. Okay. Thank you, Alan.
They didn't murder anybody as far as I know either, though. That's nice.
I want to thank you for the presentation. I did really enjoy it. But I do have a question about his children. This man is 70 years old, and he's concerned about his children. How does a 70-year-old man get children, say, anywhere from 10 to 18 years old? I was curious about that.
I guess I can't quite answer it other than I think his oldest, he had an oldest son, and then the two were younger, kind of spaced apart a little bit. It's interesting that he had kids that late. I have no idea. I guess you could, I don't want to interrupt my presentation, but you could look up on the internet to see if we know when Xanthippe lived, because then we could literally do the math to go, was she 40 when she, or whatever, right? Like, who knows? But just the fact that he lived to 70, Plato lived to around 80, something like that. It's interesting how these philosophers tend to live longer than the lifespan. I doesn't say it that way, but yeah, it's interesting.
Just a point of clarification, did you say if someone came in from another city and said, well, I really don't believe in the Athenian gods, that would or would not be a problem?
I don't know that it would be a huge problem unless the visitor just really kept hammering away at it and saying, this is stupid, or, really got into it. But I'm not aware, and I'm not a real historian of looking all the legal history of Athens up to know that they never put to death anybody from out of town for the not believing in gods idea, or probably, cause, but yeah.
Thank you, Dave, for a really interesting presentation. I'd forgotten, of course, that the Greeks did have slaves. What did Socrates think about slavery? Did he have any opinions? Do you know?
Again, since Socrates didn't write anything, we don't really know. Off the top of my head, in the Republic, and I think it was Aaron who said he just read it for the 6th time. Somebody just recently read it a bunch, or more recently probably than I have. But I think it's in there that he talks about not being mean to them or treating them nicely. But so still thinks that. That's all right. And I do know that there's an excerpt in my 101 textbook. I have just, it's an anthology of a bunch of little readings, that Aristotle actually defended slavery and said, like, this is why it's right and good. So I can tell you that. There's an argument there that he makes.
What would be your opinion of whether he actually existed or not? Because a lot of people think that Plato just made him up. Because we have the different sources, it wasn't just Plato wasn't the only one to write about him. His friend, Xenophon, wrote about him as well. So we have different sources actually writing about him. And I think, do we have? There's not rumor, sorry, but there's evidence that they made a bust of him after they died. He died. They felt badly about it, like. That was probably a bad idea, so hey, why don't we make this bust of him? And I think that might be where we get the bust too. So that's the best I've got on that.
Is there anyone in contemporary history that you think encompasses a lot of Socrates' approach to logic, or, besides you, of course?
No. Nope, still aspiring to figure it all out. Convincing myself I know less each day. No, sorry. I'm trying to think. Somebody who's just, as I maybe put it, I'll try to give your question back, but like somebody who's just really good at arguing on their feet and doing that. A lot of professional philosophers, that I'm aware of, like when I go to conventions or conferences, it's pretty amazing to watch them. I just think they just know everything. They're containing so much in their minds, and you can throw something at them and they say, nope, there's 3 passages that, that I can cite right now that, okay. It's like, I tried to make myself feel less nervous today by thinking like, well, at least all of you don't have PhDs in my area right now. I'm like, okay. If I say anything wrong, like, that's wrong. Oh, dang. Anyway, but I don't know if that helps. I'm trying to think if I come up with somebody. I know there are popular people online, like influencers or wherever, that argue, but again, it's one of those, with all due respect, I guess, anybody, but they commit a lot of fallacies, and it's tough being me, in that sense, because it's just,
The ratio of people that even know what philosophy is, I think less than 1% of Americans even take a philosophy class during their entire, their lives. To even know what it is, I almost laugh when I hear scientists say, like, we're scientifically illiterate. Oh, okay, you have science all the way through K through 12, not all the way, but maybe 3rd grade, 4th grade, all the way through. At least people know what it is. How about taking a discipline where nobody even, they look at you and go, what was that again? Did you say psychology? No, philosophy? Oh. I've gotten that all my life, or when I had only the BA, at that level, hey, I've made philosophy and psychology. Oh, psychology, you like listening to people's problems? I was like, no, that's not really, it doesn't have to be. I mean, I might, but that wasn't my area. I was like social psych, so, okay. So it's just awkward. It's like, okay, so no one knows what it is. If I point it out on social media, I'm going to get, hey, what a geek and a dweeb, and like, oh, of course you'd say that, and like, okay, now you're still attacking me. I was trying to tell you why you can't attack the person, and so that's really tough to get through, as I put it, all of that to even get to do you have an argument, like a real point that you can make for your guy? Oh, wait, you need a microphone too, sorry.
Thanks. I was just wondering if Socrates was alive today, what would he say about authoritarianism versus a democratic or republican form of government, and how we as people, the citizens, should approach government today?
How can I answer that and not get fired from MCC? Let's see. He would, I guess what I want to do in my mind, and metaphorically, whatever, I want to go to North Korea and then come back to America, because it really is, it's a great question when you really see the words, with the parent analogy agreement, they're like the laws are like your parents, and you just have to obey, and it's just, he makes it sound like there's no way out kind of thing of like, no, the laws are the laws, and that's the way it is. If you were if I lived in North Korea, his argument would be that they are so unjust and they're not allowing me to persuade. Remember I said that was one of the options of it as a citizen. He was, and then, again, you can say, well, he was just thinking of Athens, but you have the ability to persuade, you have the ability to leave. No, I mean, not right, in North Korea, right? No, you don't. And so he would say, well, I think he would say, well, then that's just wrong. I mean, you can't just make it that the North Korean citizens can never leave. Like, that's not right. So I have a feeling that he could say you could maybe, I don't want to go straight to kill in self-defense, but if you had to do that, if you were trying to leave, if you could try to get out of there, that was going to be okay. Or you could be a North Korean version of Socrates now and just say to them, like, have you seen these public meetings where Kim Jong-un is up here in front and all of the citizens are literally weeping like they're at a Beatles concert? And if you don't know this, I'm serious. I've seen documentaries where they will, I guess you'd be a guard, no offense, but they will go over to somebody going, you don't seem to be crying enough. And if you don't get with it, you're going to be gone soon. Like, what? I mean, prison, I don't know what else they torture them or whatever. And so you're just supposed to, it's like and ready, go. You guys are just supposed to go, okay. So the idea that you have to do that is wow. That's just not really right. So he would say, yeah, you shouldn't be able to do that. So imagine somebody standing up in front of that, like the emperor has no clothes, right? Like, yeah, I don't really think you're a descendant of Jesus Christ. If you didn't know that, they believe that too. Look it up. It's crazy. Sorry. And in my opinion, I shouldn't probably say that. But I'm not going to North Korea, so I should be safe. But to stand up and say, yeah, I don't really believe that, and why do we have to? So, are you really powerful, sir? Then why do you need me to be going? Oh, you're so great and you're so awesome. You don't have enough self-awareness and assurance or whatever self-esteem to just kind of say, I'm good. I don't have to have people saying, oh, it's all about you. So now coming back to us. So since we can leave America, so he would, that would apply. We can persuade. We can go either run for office or just use our social media or just talk to everybody we know to just say, hey, everyone, I don't like what's going on. The authoritarian, he would say we'd be going against our democracy to have a more authoritarian version of it, but we can change it. We the people, we're running it here. So in a sense, by voting and being able to get into office to change things. So we only have ourselves to blame. When people say government sucks, I would go, why did you just say you suck? I joke, sorry, but it's like, we're part of it, right? So what are you doing? Do you have better ideas? Do you have better ideas on how to run the prison system? And I'm not saying it's great. I don't have to say that. I'm just saying, hey, if you have better ideas, are you withholding
stealing your awesome ideas from us, that we could fix how could we fix it? And one thing that's really related to his defense was about how can you guarantee, this is a really important point, I think, how can you guarantee a just outcome and a just procedure? It's such a huge question. So here's what I mean. You can think about all of our rules in America. And by the way, Socrates had a fair trial for his day. I probably should have said that. There's so much more I could say. But he had a fair trial for his day. So they didn't interview him like, hey, have you met Socrates before? What do you think? Oh, I hate him. It's, oh, okay. You know, the juror number one is just, you know, like that kind of thing, right? Like, let's get rid of them. We don't want that person on the juror. That's what we do. They didn't do that. It was just come on by. Where was I? Sorry. But yeah, so yeah, it was a fair trial. Sorry. So you can't be, your lawyers can't be drunk defending you. No tampering with the witnesses, the jurors. The judge has to be fair. Yada yada. We have all these rules of evidence. All of that. So how can, when we have all of that checked, let's say we're sure that in this trial, whatever it is, that all was followed. A person had 3 appeals in a death penalty case. How can we guarantee that in any case, I should say, back it off, but that we will find the innocent person innocent and the guilty person guilty? Answer, you cannot. We're imperfect people. There's no way, you can't guarantee it. And so when you look at it that way, I think it adds a little bit more to his argument to go, yeah, that's right. You can't just say, well, I thought it was unfair. And I've put students in the place of Socrates in the sense of like, hey, for your paper, imagine you are Socrates, and he gives you these 2 arguments as to why you should stay in jail or remain in prison and undergo the death sentence, but you can try to argue your way out. Like, so let's see what you got. And the best they have is, what if I'm poor and I want to leave Arizona, but I haven't been? And I said, what, that makes it like I'm poor, so I get to violate any law? No offense to poor people. It's like right? But you get to violate laws because you'd like to leave? Oh, I was trying to leave, but now I'm going to murder somebody on my way out. Like, what is this? Like, no, that doesn't make any sense. And then I get that one. Or, hey, but they're being unfair. Okay, but that's not really. So everyone who thinks that they're innocent, we should just, hey, all prisoners, and whoever thinks they're innocent, raise your hand. We're leaving now. I'm young. In other words, defense. I'm young. I have my whole life. Okay, so if you're young, so anybody 24 or younger, we're really sorry we ever put you in prison. Got to let you go. Enjoy. See you later. Is that a good argument? No. I mean, so over the years, I'm just thinking, wow, I don't know how to argue that. I mean, kind of against it. Go ahead. Sorry. Thanks.
I really just have a brief comment. Okay. I'm an engineer, took a lot of science, and your comment about people being ignorant about what philosophy is, and yet they know what science is. No, they just think they know something about science.
Then there's that, yeah.
The ignorance is complete except for the illusion that they know something about
I'm
science.
doing this thing of like, at least they even know what it is. Ooh,
okay,
I've heard of it on the bar graph. And then it's down here. It's touching that for philosophy. You're like, what is that? I don't even know what you're doing. What are we doing? Critical thinking. What the heck is that? There's such
Thank you for the talk. I'm struggling to understand his lack of self-preservation in the end, and his like deep commitment to his philosophical view of life, and like not caring that he died, or like feeling. I mean, like, do you think he was sane?
I really do. That's why I put it that he died for philosophy. He's thinking like, what else do I have? Oh, it's interesting. I'm remembering another. There's a whole other. There's another take. Xenophon's take. Remember, I said he wasn't at the trial, and we don't know how much he would have. I don't know, written letters or had somebody run a message, because he was way far away. It wasn't like he was just outside of Athens, the town. He was way far away on another island. I forgot where he was, but just way far away. But Xenophon's take on it was that that Socrates basically went in there saying, this is going to be fun. I'm 70. I got nothing else to live for. So, I've lived a nice life. And maybe with all you have to do is, and you might say for this theory to even sound maybe more plausible, is that they already have it out for me. There's nothing I'm going to be able to do to change their mind. A lot of these men of Athens, the jurors, are going to think they already know who I am. They hate philosophy, or they don't like me, or they don't like what I've been doing. And their friends have maybe said, hey, that guy embarrassed me. So you're going to his trial? Cool. Like, bring him down. So if enough people thought that, if he thought that going in, then, and we don't know that for sure, but if you notice the claims, some of the claims, like I'm not afraid of death, philosophy is really important. I think here's what I've been doing, how I've lived my life. That to me, all of those things are not like a joke to him. He didn't just go in there going, what's up, and like just being kind of mean and really disrespectful to him. He did say
although, I should have put that in here, but although I honor and respect you, men of Athens, I can't stop, doing what I'm doing. I have to obey the god. I put that tail in, like that was in there, that I have to obey the god, but I should have said, or had that earlier part of, I do, I get that, and he actually says, I get that I may have annoyed you a lot. And he kind of puts it that way, and then he says, but, and just really feel like I'm doing the right thing. So, and that's again, goes to his conviction versus just saying, like, I'm just going to, like, I don't know, be obnoxious for the sake of being obnoxious, as I put it. Another person over here, sorry. We have one at the front, so you know. Oh, go ahead. No, I meant that needs a microphone, sorry. Correct.
You mentioned Alcibiades. He would later lead a disastrous situation for Athens. And that's one example. And I think the case of Socrates is another example that we've learned from, that pure democracy is easily misled sometimes. And that's why we have a mixed system. Although it's kind of stressed right now, we do have different parts of government, the judiciary, one executive, and the legislature. And it's under stress now, but you see that with ancient Athens. I think our founders saw that because they studied that stuff. And they said, we don't want pure democracy because it is easily, more easily messed up than what we have now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do I say this thing more easily? Well, one thing that's interesting is that Plato actually says in the Republic in Book 8 that he thought that the democracy was an average form of government, and he also said that he thinks it would devolve into tyranny, and he says how it would do it. So that would be, I would recommend, it's only maybe that long, it's not a long passage, you could look that up. I'm sure AI would find it for you in 2 seconds to just say, oh, here's what he says, like give me the text. Make sure you read the real thing, like go find the actual book and do it, because you never know what translations you're gonna get. But yeah, it's really interesting. He said, oh, so freedom, if that's the only thing that matters, all you have to do in a democracy is, if you're running for office, is just say what people wanna hear and they'll elect you. And he didn't like that. And he didn't like that, well, he said, if everyone's free, then you can't, like, how do you have rules, or how do you say no, but there are laws and you can't, so if the individual is more important than everyone else, and it's really interesting. And then, so then everything gets so loosey-goosey, as I'd put it, sorry, that we are waiting for, as they say, a strong man to kind of come in and go, I'm going to take over, and I got to clean all this stuff up, and then people are more willing to fall for that, so to speak, or to go for that. So it's really interesting. I'm not, it doesn't let you be the judge of like where you think he was onto something there. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious about how you think Socrates would feel about the examination of truth in our society today, where we can actually see things with our own eyes going on, and yet there are so many other interpretations of that seem to vary greatly, from the actual truth. I think we're struggling with that every single day.
Yep. Where to start? First of all, first I'll say, if you didn't know, every concept is analyzable with philosophy, and there are huge, I don't want to say fights, arguments about every single concept. So there are different theories of truth. Kierkegaard had the theory of, this is how I like to put it to make it as easy as I can, hook any belief you have up to an imaginary passionometer. And if you are passionate about it, and like hook it in, do I think I'm talking to you guys right now? Hook my, the thing into a passion of my belief. And if I'm willing to die for that, then it's true. If I believe there's a pink elephant there, I'm passionate. Let's say I'm starting to pound the podium and I'm like, stop laughing, everybody. There's a pink elephant here. Like, wow, this guy's really into this. If I'm passionate about it, then according to Kierkegaard, it is true. And in his definition, or one way he defines it, he actually says, even if the subject is thus related to what is not true, as long as I'm passionate about it. To me, that's incoherent. I'll say it out loud. But that's a version that's a definition of truth. Most people believe most philosophers, not to say it's right, but a lot of philosophers believe in the correspondence theory of truth. If I have a belief for a statement and it matches up or corresponds with reality, then it's true, and if it doesn't, then it's false. But yeah, and now we have, again, I attribute it to very few people knowing what philosophy is, that there's such a thing as a good argument and good argument forms, different kinds of good argument forms, and then fallacies. And if we could just train everybody in fallacies, just that's it. And if a journalist could say, I'm sorry, Mr. Trump or Biden, whatever, but I'm sorry, could you repeat that? And by the way, if he calls me piggy, I wanted to say that to everyone, that is not a good argument. I asked you about the budget, and I asked you about the budget. And it doesn't matter if I'm dumb. It doesn't matter if you don't like that I wear glasses. It doesn't matter. Can everyone, and if we Americans all understood, and this is why that's a silly argument and doesn't work. Everyone's imperfect. I'll tell you why. Everyone's imperfect. So if you can point out an imperfection and that makes an argument wrong, no one can make any arguments, period. It's easy. But people just are so like, yeah. I mean, here's how I like to put it to my students. I believe that most people apparently in America think that life or a discussion is a rap battle or a comedy roast. If you don't know what rap battle is, it's like insult the guy, just like, oh, you suck, and we sorry, like you're mean or whatever. All point out their attributes, your big nose, whatever. Okay, all right, and it's fun. That's fun entertainment, and I'm not trying to say no one should do that, right? So it's like, okay, you got that event, and then comedy roast. This guy or this woman, like here's let's just pick on them. They did a stupid movie, ha ha ha, everybody's laughing. Okay, that doesn't make whatever they say wrong. So you have to look at the argument and see what are the claims, does the conclusion follow from the premises? If it does, it's a good argument, or it's a better argument. Does it have any false premises? Check for that, and now we can actually have a meaningful discussion, and never mind whoever says it. So, yeah, sorry.
You commented about Plato and his thoughts on democracy. You recommended reading that, warned us about bad translations. I don't think you're asking us to all learn Greek.
Not yet.
Can you recommend some good translations of give us some names of good translators.
Reeve and Gruba, and it's just anyone but Jowett. Jowett, I guess it looks like Jowett, but it's Jowett. Apparently, it's pronounced Jowett. And those are the free ones on the internet almost always, the Jowett translations. So, and they're not. The Jowett ones are not so bad so as to be, like don't even bother at all ever. But I'll put it this way: if you're interested in, if you notice, hey, that you're on the internet, here's a Jowett translation. You're reading along. If you're interested in it, just get another translation just to compare them, and you'll notice like, oh, okay.
The guy not to read 6 times.
Oh, sorry, Jowett. Sure. Oh no, I'm sorry. I said Reeve, and Gruba, and they kind of are coordinated together. Waterman, it does a translation of the Republic. Okay, it's been a while, yeah.
Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
So these large language model AIs have been, some of them at least, have been sycophantic in telling people how smart they are in conversations. It's not good for intellectual humility, and it makes me wonder, are there any projects that you're aware of where AIs are being programmed to respond, say, in the manner of Socrates?
Not that I know of, but I agree. More and more people, Rolling Stone, I guess, of all places, but Rolling Stone had an article on how people are becoming more megalomaniacal because of AIs, that telling them, no, you're a genius, you've just solved quantum physics. That I've heard, these are real examples. I've also heard, I want to kind of piggyback on what you said and have it be that people are just literally not thinking now. They're thinking whatever the AI says must be right. I heard that a younger person actually did a asked ChatGPT, how do I get something out of in between my seats? I dropped it, the console and the seat in my car. How do I do that? You can start crying now. No, sorry. All right. I'm like, oh, wow, okay, all right. If we're just going to be thinking like, yeah, I don't want to do it. My students, I don't want to, not all, but some of them are just thinking, I'll just ask AI. And I think if you want to take, I tell them, if you want to take a class from AI, please do that, but I'm not here to grade AI or every YouTube video that's out on the internet. I don't have time. Like, okay, here's what this person said about Plato's cave allegory. It's inaccurate for the following 5 reasons. Why don't we just have you read it? That's all I'm asking you to do. It's this long. Can you just read that, come to class, tell me what you think about it? Hey, AI, what did that reading tell me? Oh, my.
And I've asked AI, just tell me what Plato's cave allegory. It doesn't say there are 4 levels. It doesn't talk about, it's just, it's a metaphor for that. Well, yeah, I know, but come on, more. Like, come on, more, way more detail. You didn't say that the philosopher appears ridiculous if he gets out of the cave and they might want to put him to death. Like, what? Come on, like, there's things in there. That's important to mention. What are we doing here? Sorry, looking around. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Doctor, for your talk today. I have kind of a different comment, but just an observation. Thank you for sharing the reading on the execution. I was really struck by how humane that execution was. I mean, to me, that felt more like a euthanasia. To be surrounded by one's friends and family and whoever you need, and to just lie down and sort of go to sleep. I mean, I think we would call that more of a euthanasia today.
Right.
So I was just so struck by that. I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, you're going to read he was drugged behind a horse and cart. That's what I expected. So I was just so struck by that.
I'm really glad you brought it up because a couple of things. I've been reading this to my students for years, of course. I like just to say, here's how he died. And like, what? Most people don't get to read it or hear it about it. So the first thing is at the very beginning, or when I read, the officer was weeping. Can you imagine any officer in America? Kind of no offense, but, crying like, oh, it's your time to die. I'm really sorry. And crying like, That struck me right there. I think that's one kind of thing. And then going on, I have actually read that some ancient medical scholars, like ancient medical history scholars, again, for around that time, state that Plato made it sound a lot more pleasant than it was. So I did hear that. So you can look that up. But then, this is so much fun. I heard an academic paper on this once at a conference, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, people really get into this stuff. Oh, that's me. Never mind. All right. Oops, pointing at me. But no, but there are different species of hemlock. So you would think, come on, this is easy. Hemlock is hemlock. Nope, actually. So it depended, the argument was, kind of the thinking through it went that depending on what species of hemlock it was, you could exonerate Plato, so to speak, in the sense of like it could have been a little bit more mellow. And from what we could tell, Socrates was really a tough guy. Like it looks like he really, or seems like he really was. He wasn't like a wimp like me, where he would be like, oh, I'm in pain. And like, this really hurts. Like, I probably would be saying like that. But I could see that maybe someone like him could be like, yeah, I don't care. Like he was in I should have said this too, that how Socrates underwent death. I mean, it's really good. I just read it so you can go, okay, I have a sense of what you're talking about. That helped found the Stoic whole branch of philosophy. It's like it branched off there. Like here's one, you could say, reading or take on Socrates. Hey, everybody dies, so deal with it. And know what's going to happen and brace yourself. Like what are you acting shocked that anybody died ever? You should you knew it was going to happen, right? After about, 5 to 8, whenever you start learning, like, what do you mean? Your grandma's gone, I don't understand. What do you mean? Well, here's what happened. Like, what? Oh, does that happen to everyone? Yep, okay. Yikes, okay. So once you know that, never say, well, that's a shock. Like, what do you mean? I don't understand. Like, well, body has a billion ways to go wrong, have issues. So it's like, okay. So yeah, it's going to happen. So don't let it get to you. And yeah.
So we have time for 2 more questions. Okay. One's coming from online, and then you'll have the last question.
Oh, online.
While that's being said, are you able to stick around once we end the presentation and then chat with people should they have any more questions? Okay, fantastic. The online question that we have would be, are you aware of any therapy models that utilize philosophy?
There is a book that I read called Plato, Not Prozac. It's fun. Martinoff, it's off the top of my head. Martinoff, like one. I think, and yeah, it was pretty interesting. There's psychological, of course there's psychological counseling. What I meant to say, there's philosophical counseling. So yeah, it's called, and there's a movement for that. And there are these Socrates cafes that are around, and it's just basically get together and talk about philosophy, as far as I know. And it all your mileage may vary. Consult your physician. Just kidding. Sorry. When you go, I mean, who knows what they're really going to talk about, like who's running it and their level of expertise or whatever. And I'm not bragging to say, don't trust anyone. I'm just saying, like, you never know what you're going to get kind of thing. It's not like here's how they are run. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
As a therapist myself, I think ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, and DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, we use a lot of that kind of psychobabble with stoicism with that. But my question was, if Socrates I mean, and I'm very naive, but he seems like the epitome of logic. How did he wrap his head around gods and theology?
Again, all we have is what, we have very little evidence.
Sure.
We have, here's how I put it to my students. There's something known as the problem of Socrates, and what it means, what it is here are all, picture here all of Plato's dialogues, and like I said, Xenophon's writings, I put them here. But out of all of Plato's, but especially in Plato's dialogues, because they're dialogues, like we got this guy, Socrates, talking to this guy, Meno, or whomever, and like I said, we don't know that he had this conversation with that guy. It can just be all in Plato's mind, where Plato has the voice of Socrates, or has Socrates, a character, talk to this guy to give us Plato's philosophy. That makes sense. So that could happen for anywhere along the line. So what I take to be, as I call it, authentic or whatever about this, we should read that when you're reading this really is trying to tell us about Socrates. We can take this to the bank, as they say. The trial, the credo, when he's in prison, it's highly likely his friends visited him and said, we can get you out of here. And one of the arguments is, what kind of friends are we going to look like if we didn't try to get you out of here? We think you're awesome. And so what if we did that? And then, like I said, then the hammer comes down. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it, and here's why. But yeah, so that, and then Alcibiades talking about Socrates in the Symposium, where he talks about, I was trying to get him drunk in the 3 battles, and here's what he did. He saved my life, and all of that kind of stuff. And here's what he's like, and he stands in a trance, all that kind of stuff. That's why I took that stuff to say, I'm pretty sure we can take that. And then after that, it's all like the total speculation. But so we don't, and yeah, I mean, I don't want to say we know, but we have really good reason to believe he believed in an afterlife too, because of what he was saying, the laws of the underworld. He wouldn't have mentioned that if he didn't really believe, that there was an afterlife, or he wasn't pretending to believe in God, so he wouldn't be in more trouble, something like that, right? Like at his trial or later during his life, from what we can tell. But I don't know. Does that help? Is that good?
Well, just want to say thank you very much for a fantastic presentation.
Thank you very much for having me.
As we close out, are there any books, podcasts, YouTube channels that you would recommend?
That's tough. Just because I don't know. My friends and I want to start one after we retire, so I'll just say it that way. But I heard Aaron runs one, so please talk to him about that. And that sounds, from what I've heard, it sounds really great. I'm just trying to think of anything else. I don't know. There's too much out there to say only listen to this or never listen to that or something. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll come up with something when I'm off camera.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
But thank you.
Again, thank you so much for an excellent presentation. Please give her one round of applause.